So before we move to the cartography of a genocide, the forums in which your work is shown include courts, but also media, but also art exhibit, art museum, wherever it can be public. So it's your notion of the forum as linked to forensics and forensic architecture, but also, and that's important as a transition towards the next question, usually your ethical protocols are that you don't work for government, you don't, you work against, or you try to provide evidence about state crimes. And you also don't usually take the initiative. In other words, you wait to be commissioned by people who have been affected by that, right? So just to...
Okay, these are two separate questions. Each one of them is requires, a lengthy, but I'll try to be brief. Firstly, it came out, our analysis of the place of law and human rights in politics is exactly to open it up, socialize evidence production, and socialize the evidence distribution, right? And it's difficult because if you collaborate with a community, and if you say in advance, yes, we are committed to Palestine liberation, to decolonization, in the way that we understand it to be, kind of freedom for all between the river and the sea, you are, they often tell you, sorry, if you're an activist, just go to the street. This is a place for serious deliberation, of neutral, observance. And then often we would say, and the lawyers for the other side, for the military, are they exactly those kind of like 19th century objective scientists? No, let the evidence play. But also, it is about the way in which evidence and human rights, in as much as anything is worth in that discourse, is to be linked to political initiatives. So when we take a case, our first analysis is, is it a case for us? Is architecture could help there? Do we know how to do it? If we do know how to do it, we don't take it. We always say we don't take cases we know how to resolve, because we're also a university. Forensic architects sit at Goldsmiths, and now we have also our responsibility as academics to do something new every time and to open the field and then to disseminate the technique. So that's part of our mandate. But the third question, then another question that we have we been asked to do it? Or just we go into something because we think it's interesting? And it's not that we've never done that in the beginning, but we learn not to do it. Because you don't enter the site of somebody's trauma uninvited. And if you do not, if you are invited, that is a beginning of a form of relationship that is close, that is collaborative, where we are not a remote expert, but we are all experts. No, there are the experts that understand things like the prisoners of Sadnaya. They're expert listeners, or the expert recollectors. Like in Namibia, people that can conserve the memory and transfer it on with the expert in some kind of IT thing. So we are like the IT department of that of these sort of social and political movement. That's really important, to enter a place welcomed and collaborative, not to say, oh, sorry, can we run between your leg and do that, and who are you and why are you doing that, and what's your interest in that? So we learned not to do it, but the problem with that, okay, so we kept on receiving, requests from Palestine, where we were very well known, from Mexico, where we were well known, in Colombia, where we did the Truth Commission, and in other places where we were known, but I don't know, we didn't get requests from India, or from places where we are less known, or people who are not as well connected to the kind of global human right media discourse, etc. So this is also a certain bias that enters into that. So we found ways to become present without entering when we think that there would be a need for our work. But that analysis of the case needs to be political, needs to be aligned with social movement, liberation movement, or political movement, means that the case cannot be surrendered to the court itself, because every like you said, no, forensics. We want to, kind of liberate forensics from the telescoping that the term has undergone in simply the presentation of science in court, and to say forensics in the way it was understood by the great orators of the first century is the art of the forum. That's what forensics means, and forum can be multiple things. It's a public space also. So making evidence public, to kind of take a Latourian-like formulation. And in order for it to be political. And but each forum constrains the speech, the evidentiary speech in one way. Still, in court, you need to follow certain protocols, and it's not the place maybe always to speak about the long history or the political context of things. But you can do it in the media maybe, but in the media you have to do it short. But you can do that in a larger human rights report. You can do it in a truth commission, things that are exactly designed to be historical, like our work for the Colombian Truth Commission, which spans, decades. It's exactly about the long duration of conflict. And in a gallery, you can do other things. You can, for example, present conceptual problems or questions that come from media and representation, and speak about that. You could amplify a message by putting it in a sort of court of public opinion in that way. You could benefit from the money that the art world is putting into, and now it's much less because we became too controversial for the art world after a number of controversies we've done, including once when we went to the Whitney Museum in the context of the Whitney Biennale and decided to investigate the deputy president of the board for how he got the money with which we did that project, and showed his kind of exposed, it was known, but aspects of his tear gas business and selling sniping bullets to the Israeli army. So, you kind of use the white cube not to reflect on politics elsewhere, but we wanted to explode it. No, we wanted to kind of tear the very museum that gives us this form apart. And in fact, this principle of presenting evidence in the forum is always an attempt to transform it, has been a kind of a principle for us. If we engage with journalism, yes, we criticize the way in which traditional investigative journalism was undertaken. If we exist in the human rights world, yes, we kind of work differently between the evidence testimony paradigm. If we are in the art, we are not kind of agreeing to this diagram that radical political art, which you can see everywhere in museums, as long as it's non-consequential, right? So you can see, you can have exhibitions about the situationist, and it's kind of quaint and nice and wonderful, and the museum can actually tolerate it because it's not going to actually lead to the firing or the resignation, as happened at the Whitney, of the deputy person of the board. So each forum allow a different facet of evidence to play, allows you to connect to different, to socialize it differently, or politicize it differently, and each one offsets the limitation of speech that exists in others. So we say each one of the forums is compromised. There's nothing like a perfect. It's not like we refuse this and go there. We do all the forums because in each one, there's limitations and possibilities, and that allows things to happen, which means that we in all compromised forums and, being criticized rightly for why you're representing in court. The court is actually a bureaucratic mechanism that is just, made by the state for the state, and you just give legitimacy to a legal system that need to be discarded in a revolutionary manner. Why are you showing in the art? You're just enjoying the this, or human rights is a kind of liberal, softy kind of practice, etc. But we think that just like this multiplicity, the radical multiplicity in which our work, the spaces it occupies, offset, and this is really where the kind of potential, the transformative potential, if it exists there.